Catch-22.
Here is Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
Back from vacation and back to Patriots training camp. And this is...
Back from vacation. First off, and congratulations to you and Jess and
all,
Atlas.
All the pleasantries. Yes,
Meanwhile, I am over here. I remain married to the game.
Another word for single.
I'm married to the game. I somehow missed that little quip from you last week. Ow!
Another word.
Mean.
I crack myself up sometimes. I got to give myself credit for that one.
At least you're making somebody laugh.
Okay, fair enough. Listen, like I always say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So some of my jokes don't land, some of them do. That one was kind of funny. I'll give myself credit for that one. So it's Evan Lazar, it's Alex Barth, Patriots Catch-22 with you for the next hour or so. You know, we tend to ramble, so it might be a little bit over the hour, but we'll see how long we go here today. But a lot to talk about, a lot of positives to talk about. Like, we're not just, look, on Tuesday, Alex, you know, I was texting you about it during practice.
So it's not like you were texting me about it during practice.
You can just out me about this. I'm going to own this. I'm going to wear it.
We were getting to a point on Tuesday where, the offense was a little stagnant. And you know, they were still working through some things. Evan texts me and goes, in so many words, he's worried. He is worried about the offense.
Worried.
Literally since the snap after that text.
Yep, it's all because of me.
They have been locked. I think I literally sent you a text back after that. Well, that was a good throw. Yeah. And it was, I think, the Mac Jones touchdown to Juju Smith-Schuster in the back of the end zone.
Yeah.
Ever since you sent that text, you fixed the offense with that text.
You're giving me credit?
We might have to give. Well,
I did it. Thank you.
But then
not Bill O'Brien. It was me.
But then the next day they got off to a little bit of a slow start. And you texted me again, and then Mac Jones had his best practice he's had since the Giants practice his rookie year.
Yeah.
So just keep sending the texts.
Okay.
That's what it comes down to. This whole season comes down to, will Evan keep sending those texts?
There we go. So we'll lay this out and exactly go into a little bit more detail here, but I'd also just want to do some housekeeping. Shout out Marine behind the glass with us as always, and Zach is with us here today with Alex. He's shadowing our Alex, not this Alex, today for the day. And Zach, you have one of the coolest stories I think anybody can tell, other than you going to training camp every day like a psycho since you were like 2 years old or something like that. But we came back last year from the Buffalo Road game. And the Patriots did not have such a good day that day. And we're all coming back on the team buses. And we see a son and a father holding a sign that says, "Thank you, Patriots," as we're pulling into Gillette. And all of us on the content bus, we don't get to mingle with the coaches and players. We have our own separate bus. And all of us on the content bus were like, wow, that's so cool. Like, who is that? We we obviously dug up who it was. Alex wrote a story about it, and it was Zach and his father that came out. It was like 20 degrees. It was late at night. They did not win the game. They did not make the playoffs, as we all know. And he's been doing that, though, our Alex, talking to you now, since for years, Super Bowl champs or not even making the playoffs at 8 and 9. Him and his dad come out every year and hold up the signs and
awesome.
And welcome the team back from whatever their final game of the year is. So that's really, really cool. I think it's awesome just to see somebody that fair weather, not here, right? Like
right.
It doesn't matter if they're winning the Super Bowl or they're coming in third place in the division and not making the playoffs. We don't need to talk about too much about that. But let's get back to training camp. Shout out Zach, and thanks for hanging with us today. But I want to get into camp a little bit, and you mentioned my texts and my negativity about the offense on Tuesday, and the place that I was coming from with the offense, and I understand where I went wrong, right?
Yeah.
I understand what I missed. But
I'm not going to ride the roller coaster of training camp.
Here we are. We're on Superman at Six Flags right now. The main thing that I was frustrated with was the missed opportunities or the meat left on the bone, I thought, from that practice. And as good
in terms of like taking completions but not pushing the ball.
Right. And so I can name specific plays.
Which, no, at the time was a fair assessment.
The main thing is that I felt like a lot of people, and I'm not calling anybody out, I just want to be honest, I felt like a lot of people were gassing up a lot of short completions and checkdowns by Mac Jones. And we hear about these training camp stats, and we hear after practice, Mac Jones finished the day 8 for 10 in team drills. And that 80% completion rate, that sounds incredible. But what I'm more concerned about is one, is he running the play properly? Of course, is the biggest thing, at least as far as I can tell. And two, how difficult are the throws? How much is he pushing himself and pushing the team? Because the main thing is that let's call a spade a spade. They don't have a great offensive line right now, and they might not have a great offensive line. I think it's going to be better than what we've seen at practice when Mike Onwenu and Cole Strange come back. And
they only have 2 projected starters right now.
Right.
You call it what it is.
And I don't really know how good this group is going to be in general, even on paper, if everybody's healthy. We've had concerns about the line all offseason, mainly at tackle, which right now, and we'll get to in a little bit more detail, Connor McDermott, it looks like he's kind of locked up the right tackle job 8 practices into camp. And as much as I have been impressed by what I've seen out of Connor McDermott, I'm not so sure that's a great thing. That Connor McDermott is the best tackle that you have to start on the right side opposite of Trent Brown. So I think the main thing is that you have an so-so offensive line. I think you have average skill players. I think the skill players are okay. I don't think they're great. I don't think they're elite, but I think they're okay. And
I think I'm good.
And guys,
all the skill players are going to factor in Hunter Henry. We're going to factor in Mondre. They're good. I don't know. They're great. They're good. They're good.
They're fine.
They're good. Yeah.
They're fine. And we looked at that practice on Tuesday, and that was the first time where things started to kind of show signs that things were clicking, and guys were starting to get open a little bit more and more down the field, which is something that has been a problem through 5 camp practices. And all of a sudden, Mac Jones is kind of missing some throws. And everybody's writing about, hey, it was this great practice. And I'm thinking to myself, like, he threw in 7-on-7, Juju Smith-Schuster was open on a corner route, and the ball hung up in the air, and Marcus Jones nearly picked it off. Juju had to play defense, right? Juju became the defensive back,
right?
Knock it out of Marcus Jones's hands. Later on, when they got into 11-on-11s, he had Gesicki open on a crosser, and he short-armed it, and Mack Wilson broke up the pass. And these types of things were happening throughout the practice. I have a high standard for the quarterback. If there are open receivers down the field, I expect Mac Jones to make the throws.
And that's a fair expectation.
And I didn't feel like he did that on Tuesday. Now, what I missed, and this is mea culpa here, what I missed is that I should have recognized that the receivers were actually getting open, right? Like the offense was actually starting to find a rhythm and starting to click. And then the last thing that sort of needed to come along was the timing and the ball placement and working out really the finer details of these sort of things. And just as an example, on that Gesicki play, I saw Mac kind of signal with his hand afterwards about potentially Gesicki drifting a little bit upfield or further upfield than he thought. So what I missed on Tuesday was that was a stepping stone to what we saw the last 2 days.
And can I tell you what I think may have helped with that, as crazy as this sounds? And this is classic training camp. We're going to take one play and blow it up into something bigger. But so this was, again, kind of right after you sent me that text about, Max maybe missing some of these guys further down the field. He threw that deep ball to Kendrick Bourne. It was not complex. It was Kendrick Bourne ran in a straight line, ran by the corner. I want to say it was Jalen Mills. I don't remember who it was. No, it was...
Wait, just what play was it? Discontinue and I'll remember.
The go ball to Kendrick Bourne that Mac launched downfield.
Oh, yeah.
And again, nothing sexy, no intense concept. Right. It was go, run. He ran by the corner, and Mac threw it deep to him, and he missed him by about a step, overthrew him by about a step.
We'll talk about
that
in a second.
But on it, so you're texting me. It's all checkdowns, and you were right. And then that happened, and then all of a sudden he starts mixing in a lot more of this intermediate stuff. I almost feel like that was a moment where maybe he took the deep shot, and it was incomplete, but he was he was open. Yeah. This is going to work. I have a chance to make these plays. Right. Let's try that again. Because that seemed to kind of, even though it was incomplete, it seemed to unlock something.
Yeah, I totally...
Although you sound less thrilled with that play.
I am less thrilled with that play, but not because I disagree with your point. The main point that when I looked at that throw to Kendrick Bourne, and then the next day he had a similar overthrow to Devontae Parker.
Yeah.
He's got to recognize that he ain't throwing to Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith, right? Those guys are slower receivers. But with that being said, they're really good at the catch point. So if he puts it on them instead of leading them into the end zone, if he just allows Devontae Parker to just go up to the 10th floor and pick it up and grab it, over the defensive backs, that's how Devontae Parker is going to win on a deep ball,
which we've seen now Mac start to do.
Right,
and it's. I think we talked about this a little bit on the last show, but it's really started to click the last couple of days, and I tweeted this, and people were kind of confused as to why I tweeted it because it sounds stupid, but the Patriots and Mac Jones and these receivers, they've figured out this concept that if you throw the ball high to the tall wide receivers and let them jump and get it, like they're going to be able to make plays. They're going to be able to get to the ball clean.
He needs to know the strengths of the players.
Right. I know that you don't love the idea of being like a purely contested catch offense, and I don't think that's sustainable to be purely contested catch. But for them to hit their ceiling this year, it's going to have to be a decent part of what they do. That's just the roster they've built, and you can argue the roster should be built differently, but we're past that at this point.
Yeah.
There's going to have to be an element of 50-50 balls in this offense, and that's timing, that's chemistry.
You can tell by my face how much I hate that.
But it's too late. It's too late. This is the team they have.
Yeah.
They are starting to really maximize some of those concepts here the last couple of days.
Yeah, so I think the coolest thing about yesterday's practice from Mac's perspective and just from the offense's perspective in general, Alex, that I spent a lot of time this offseason trying to learn the Bill O'Brien offense as best as I could. And,
maybe a little too well.
Yeah. And there were instances during that practice where I could have told you the play. And that's cool because that means that it's hitting exactly how it should, because I'm no savant. So like if I can tell just because of the way that they're running the routes and stuff like that, I could name the play call, that means that they're executing it exactly how it's drawn up on the whiteboard.
Right.
And there were a couple different plays that hit like that I was like, oh wow, like it's starting to come together.
I think you said that play,
the Gesicki throw,
or in the Smith-Schuster touchdown, that was the big play, I think, on Wednesday.
Right. So the Gesicki throw was the first one where it clicked on, and I was like, oh wow, like that's teach tape of this concept. I don't want to name the concept and get myself in trouble. That's teach tape of this concept. And what it was Kendrick Bourne was in a split or a stack, I should say, with Gesicki, where Kendrick Bourne's on the line of scrimmage and Gesicki's a little bit off the line of scrimmage. And Kendrick Bourne's just going to release vertical, and that's going to create like a little pocket of space. And then Gesicki has an option route. If it's zone, he can sit in between the zones. If it's man, he reads the leverage of the defender and just breaks opposite of the leverage of the defender. So all of that's made possible by Kendrick Bourne's release because it gives him that space to kind of make that operate, to operate. It gives him that space to operate. And Gesicki recognized the defender was outside of him, broke inside on a little angle route, and Mac hit him in stride. And if it was a game, that would have been like a catch and run type of play. And that was the first one where I was like, that was on time. That's exactly how it's drawn up. Both receivers ran their routes perfectly, and they hit it. And that's a really good thing. The next one was the Juju play where they had the double dig concept. That's a pretty simple one. Those types of plays that continue to happen in that practice, I was, okay, now we're starting to not only can you see conceptually what they're trying to get done, but now they're executing it. And I think it goes back to something that Juju said yesterday, actually, which was that they're at the point of training camp now where they're repeating plays. They're no longer installing. And I think that's really where the light switched on for the offense, was when they stopped getting bogged down by installing new plays and started trying to master the ones that they already know. And now we see what we see.
Did they get to that point last year? I don't know that they did.
I don't know.
But
it makes me want to give Bill O'Brien a hug. Because
he said that to me the other day.
He literally just he saved it. Like we're on that step. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I think the biggest thing with what you see from Bill O'Brien is he makes it so easy on everybody.
Yeah.
And for guys, they're in positions where they can win on their routes, and for the quarterback, you see the leverage. Like you see the passing lane start to get created early in the route. And that's like so beneficial to the quarterback because now you're not holding the ball.
Right, especially with this offensive line.
Right.
And you said he makes it easy for everybody. And the guy that really takes the brunt of it is Mac Jones because, like you said, there's a lot of reads of leverage and coverages. But that's why you invest a first-round pick in a guy like Mac Jones, because yeah, he has some deficiencies. You talked about the arm strength, but he's going to be able to get to the line, recognize the defense's call, and then adjust the offense accordingly to take advantage. There's no defense that can cover everything. It just doesn't exist. This is at its base what football comes down to. The offense is going to try to do something. The defense is going to try to take away something. If the defense guesses right and takes away what the offense was trying to do, the defense wins. If the offense catches the defense off guard. So when you can essentially go into a play with multiple plans on offense, it makes it that much easier to counter whatever the defense is doing, and people are probably sitting at home and saying, well, why doesn't every team do that? You need really smart players to be able to do that, because there's players that...
And you need coaches that can teach it. And I think
and that's part of it.
I think that's where it got caught up last year, was that the coaches were trying to teach themselves what they were installing, and they were trying to figure it out on the fly. So when the players had questions and the players had things to work out and things, bad habits that were starting to form and things of that nature, it was too late, right? Like, they were too far gone at that point. The spacing and the timing of these routes, and how much did we talk about spacing issues last year? You know, guys being crowded, guys running into each other at times. You don't see any of that in these practices now. And we're not even getting into, and we can a little bit, we aren't even getting into like the schematic bells and whistles that O'Brien is putting on the offense. We're just talking about like simple football at this point in time. And the other play that really got me excited was the touchdown that Mac threw to Juju yesterday down inside the red zone, because, and we got a question about this from...
This is the one where he was running the end line and went up and got it?
No, this is the one, the back of the end zone.
Back of the end zone,
toe tapper. So I think is actually Patty and Agawam actually emailed us about the little side sessions that they've been doing during special teams periods. Mac and Bill O'Brien go over to the other field and bring like Juju and Parker and Bourne and Henry and like the big receivers with them. This is something that's been going on in New England since Brady was here. Brady would have like his little circle of trust.
Yeah, the side sessions. That's what we used to call them.
So this isn't new. It's not like a new phenomenon.
So it's different because Zappy and McSorley will go over for those as well. In the past, it was just Brady.
Right. So it's not a new phenomenon to football, is my point. That was Patty's question. It's not a new phenomenon. But the biggest thing is that when they were in those little side sessions, they were working 2- and 3-man route combinations on the goal line. And they were practicing against air, but they were practicing those things. And then they come yesterday at the end of practice, and they bring it to 11-on-11. And they noticed that the two defenders were going to banjo or switch, basically like a pick and roll in basketball, where you switch it instead of staying with your guy. And they recognized that pre-snap, that was the call that the defense made. And this is part of training camp that I think is important to mention as well, is just it's 8 practices in. The offense knows the defense knows the offense. Right. And this is why we need to wait until joint practices happen to get really excited. But the Mac makes a check at the line of scrimmage because he recognizes that they're going to inside out the receivers, and they ended up flooding one of the defenders, and the guy, I think it was Jalen Mills, is kind of just lost in no man's land. And that was a play that they took from that side session that they've been working on like all week long. They took it to the game, to the practice field or the game field for now, and it translated. And to see the progress that they've made in the red zone, when the first couple days, it was horrible.
It was a little ugly.
It was ugly. It looked like last year at times, honestly. They're holding the ball, nobody open, things like that. And now all of a sudden you start to see them making plays in the red zone and scoring in the red zone. And that's really encouraging too. So they're getting better at the things that they're emphasizing and that they're working on. So needless to say, that's a lot of inflating the tires for the offense, but I think it's all legitimate. I think the one thing that we have to continue to caveat and continue to be concerned about, to me, is the offensive line, which is where I wanted to go next. The biggest thing with the offensive line, I should also mention, is that you can't hit the quarterback right now.
Yeah.
So how is all of this going to look offensively when Mac Jones is on his butt?
Well, so there's kind of two sides to that. Yes, Mac Jones is going to have to be good under pressure. And there's been times this camp, he had that play in the red zone on Monday
to Ramondre, the blitz.
Yeah. So he read the blitz, checked it through right into the blitz.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about this earlier. They're doing a lot of quick hit stuff. That's going to help. The offensive line doesn't come into play there a ton. So there's that. But it is a question. Now, it's going to be better. Like you said, they have 2 of their 5 starters right now on the field.
Yeah.
Michael Nguyen's going to come back. It sounds like Cole Strange issue isn't serious. He's going to come back. Trent Brown is healthy by all indications. They're just managing his workload, so he'll be back. And then they'll figure out what they do at right tackle. But that is the one, and it's scary because that's the one thing you can't see in training camp.
Right.
Is the offensive line.
Well,
like
what
you
I
said.
can see is that I hate training camp sacks because, who actually knows? The
Right.
quarterback can slip a tackle. The quarterback can step up in the pocket. And it's really difficult to tell, especially without being able to review the practice tape, if it would have really been a sack or not. But there's guys in the backfield. We can all see it. There's guys in the backfield, and that's going to be the big question is when it's live, not just padded practice and training camp live with the quarterback in a red jersey, but when it's live, is it still going to look as good? Now, this sort of, I want to get into some of the individual players, but this also sort of brings in Bill O'Brien again. A lot of the window dressing and a lot of the things that they're trying to do, I think, is mainly being put in because it's good stuff, but it's also because they know that their offensive line might be a problem.
Yeah.
So you're seeing a lot of jet motion. You're seeing a lot of backfield actions. You're seeing RPO. You're seeing play action. You're seeing empty, which is just to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands as quickly as possible by spreading the field.
Yeah.
And all these types of things are things that good offensive coordinators do when they know that they might have some issues along the offensive line.
And this is something we talked about going back to the spring. I forget if it was this show or another show I was on. Somebody called in and said, do they believe in their tackles? Are they maybe higher on their tackles than everybody else is? I don't think it's as much that as it is they're high on Bill O'Brien, they're high on Adrian Clem to kind of coach this group up.
I'm high on Adrian Clem too.
And then scheme around it.
I think from all the linemen that we've talked to, there's been some really positive reviews about Clem, and I can see that they're fitting it properly. Like, I don't know if they're going to be able to block it when it's, the Eagles front in week 1 or whatever.
Right.
But the hats are in the right place.
Hey, I'll say this. Some of the younger guys, Antonio Maffe's looked good. He won a rep against Christian Barmore today in one-on-ones, which I think is an encouraging sign.
As soon as the pads came on and Maffey started to look a lot better.
Yeah, which obviously that's expected. So you're seeing the progress for some younger guys. I think they're going to be able to hype some of these younger guys up and get these younger guys going, but they don't really have any younger tackles except for maybe Andrew Stuber, who we saw very briefly on Monday when everybody was hurt. Yeah, it's going to be Connor McDermott, Riley Reif, and Calvin Anderson if and when he comes back. I'm not.
What's going on there?
I
wish I knew.
I hate to go to this, but when Bill was asked about it the other day, and he talked about it because it's non-football illness, not non-football injury, and Bill didn't sound super bullish on him coming back soon. Offensive tackle, young guy, NFI, mystery. I go right to Antonio Garcia, who got really sick, blood clot in his lung, lost like 60 pounds. He was out of football for a couple of years.
But
that's a worst case scenario. I don't know that it's there with Anderson, but it's like
that's tough. If that's what it is, I feel terrible.
Bill, and I do too.
Yeah.
But Bill sounding as I don't want to say pessimistic, but he sounded like he legitimately didn't know. I'm sure he knows what's wrong with Anderson, but he sounded like he didn't know legitimate timeline, and just again it being that illness, not injury thing. That can lead to some scary situations. So I hope for the best for Calvin Anderson, obviously, but I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, because when camp opened and we were talking about the tags, like, Trent's going to be back and Calvin Anderson will be back, and that's a guy they were probably counting on.
Yeah.
I'm kind of going away from that a little bit and saying, I wonder if they're going to have to kind of plan for not having him.
Yeah, because not to pick on anybody, but like Riley Reif has been a little rough.
It's been like he actually had probably his best day today.
Yeah,
his one-on-one against Josh Uche looked good.
He's been good in what's. I don't know for what it's worth. I guess he's been better in drills than he has been in team. Right, so he's been solid in one-on-ones for the most part, and he's been really good in that kick-out edge setting drill that they've been doing. He's been really good in that, but the issue is with really mainly the edge setting drill, but also both kind of drills. Like, you're in a phone booth. You're not truly out on an island in either situation, especially the edge setting one.
Yeah.
So when he's able to just keep his feet under him and not have to move too much side to side, it's fine. But he's a tackle. He's not playing guard.
Right. When the guy has to come right at him.
Right.
The guy has to come at him. And that makes sense. Like, he's a strong guy. But the one guy I've seen give him fits is Josh Uche, who got him again today. But even, I mean, there were a couple days early in practice where, and don't get me wrong, Jelani Tavai is having a really good camp, but he's not a guy you expect to run around people. He's usually a guy that runs through people, which we've seen him do.
Yeah.
But he's going around Riley Reef.
Yeah, it hasn't been pretty for Riley Reef when he is asked to move his feet, which when you play tackle in the NFL is kind of an important thing to be able to do. So that's concerning. I think this is all but locked up for Connor McDermott at this point at right tackle. I've liked what I've seen, and I liked the film last year from Connor McDermott in the run game. He's a really good run blocker. Really good's probably exaggeration. Yeah. He's a solid run blocker.
It's the better half of his game.
Pass protection-wise, I think he has a lot of the same issues that most tall tackles have, where bend and ability to go down and get guys and get hands on guys that like an Uche type, and you're gonna have Hassan Reddick coming off your right side in week 1. Those types of guys are difficult for 6'8" tackles. It's the problem that Nate Solder had his entire career. Can you sit down in the chair and catch those types of guys that are the smaller finesse pass rushers? Keon White went right around him in one-on-ones the other day with a little outside-inside type of move.
Small.
And he's not even that small, correct. So Connor McDermott's biggest issue is going to be leverage in the pass game. Can he move his feet, sink, get his hands on people, and I say sink, I mean like sink at the hips and the knees, and get down in your stance and be able to square up guys, because he's not somebody that consistently gets to his landmark and consistently is able to do that, and that's going to be something that they're going to have to protect against. But he's been okay last year, and he's been okay in camp, but they're not going to have any difference makers at the tackle spot at right tackle.
No.
Trent is a whole different story. If Trent wants it and his head's screwed on right and he's in shape and he's engaged, then Trent can be a difference maker. The right side is going to be hold on to your pants. Like, let's just survive. A lot of the weeks.
Can you get 17 games of starting caliber play out of the combination of Reef and McDermott and maybe Anderson and maybe Stuber? That's what the question is.
It stinks that Anderson is dealing with what he's dealing with.
Yeah, I was, of all the tackles, I was the most excited to see him.
Me too, because he's got the athletic profile. And he's got some really good film last year in spurts at Denver, and he's got a really, really good. He's the best athlete out of the group. That's not even close. Like, even a better athlete than Trent. So that was something I was really looking forward to seeing, because they've ran some plays, pin, pull, toss, that type of stuff to trying to get to the outside, and they cannot run outside the tackles right now because their tackles aren't fast enough to make the blocks. So that's going to be something that they're going to have to coach around as well. Like, they've ran a lot of inside zone. Maybe it's duo, maybe it's inside zone. It's hard to tell live. But they've ran some downhill stuff, but they haven't really been pulling a lot of guards.
Well, I mean, they haven't had guards to pull. It's not. And this is the other thing I wanted to ask you, because I'm kind of trying to answer this question myself. Do you think they've seen enough at this point that when Mike Onwenu comes back, they'd consider playing him at right tackle? And when I say seen enough, I mean both in terms of what the right tackles have done, but also what Antonio Mafi has done, because he would move in as the starting right guard probably.
Right. I still think they roll with McDermott for now. I think they try to see. I think McDermott's done enough to not run away with the job, but secure that he could probably handle the job. I guess I'm trying to put this as lightly as I possibly can, because I'm not trying to say that Connor McDermott is Trent Williams or anything like that. So I think that he's done enough that you can at least try it out to start the year with McDermott at right tackle. But Mafi plays a really Patriot-like guard. He's a hard-nosed guard. He's a really good run blocker. In pass pro today, he caught a jumper and threw the guy to the ground, which is kind of cool. And he's physical. He's a stout.
He's a little nasty, yeah.
He's a cinder block, and you can tell by the body type too. He's just a wide body, and he's basically as advertised. Like everything that we talked about with him at the Shrine Bowl and then in the draft. He's come as advertised so far in camp. He's not going to be a fleet of foot guy. You're not going to ask him to get out on screens or pull or move a whole lot. But if you have him just coming off the ball and hitting some people, he's going to be fine. Yeah. And I think that that's possible that they look at that. But I still think McDermott's gonna be the guy. I would love to see Anderson, hopefully, by the time camp is done, just to see what it looks like. But maybe this is just my priors, but I'm kind of out on Riley Reif. I've been out on Riley Reif since I watched him last year after they signed him. I think he's a fine swing. Like, I think he's a serviceable third tackle and can play in a pinch, but I don't necessarily want to count on Riley Reif for 17 games.
Look, I don't even know that it's priors. I think coming in, we said he's an older guy. He's 34. He showed some decline last year.
Yeah.
Where is his game at now? And we're kind of seeing where his game's at. It looks like he's lost another step, which happens to guys at 34. And, yeah, he was a really good player back in the day, but that was 7-8 years ago.
Yeah. All right, let's take some of these calls. It's 855-PATS-500, web radio at patriots.com. And then I want to get to the receivers. I'm sure some of these calls might bring us to the receivers hot button topic. But let's start with Jeff in Maine. Jeff, thanks for waiting. What's going on?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Hey.
So, a few things. One is, anytime I drive by the ground round now, I can't help but think of this pod. So.
Yes.
Where are you that there's a ground round? I thought they all closed.
Yeah, they closed the one by Needham.
No, there's one in Bangor, Maine. It's like 10 minutes from my house.
Oh, that's good to know. I go up to Maine sometimes.
You're going to drive all the way to Bangor,
I
Maine
have friends that live in Maine, so I go visit them sometimes.
You're going to go to trivia? There used to be trivia.
No, I go up to Maine to play golf sometimes, so if I'm in the area, that's good to know.
So, in terms of Dalvin Cook, I haven't been able to call the last couple weeks, and I know this ship is mostly sailed, but I know that, at least from my recollection, people always talked about his game being, he's this fast running back who just runs through gashes in the defense and is a home run hitter. And the whole time people were talking about him, I always thought that, if we sign Dalvin Cook, Pierre Strong is basically going to get 0 offensive snaps. And then in terms of the O-line, City So, according to his college coach, by the way, it is pronounced So. Sal was a joke that the offensive line coach said. I haven't heard much about him in camp, but, with him and Stuber, if Reed and McDermott are only slightly better than them, would it make sense for you guys to play So or Stuber? Because obviously it's not ideal to not have one of your best tackles out there, but if you're going to have subpar tackle play, would you rather just have a young guy whose ceiling we maybe haven't seen yet, and, rather than these veterans who, like you guys talked about, don't have great foot speed or great agility necessarily?
Yeah,
I'll hop off the call so you guys can discuss it. Thanks, and Alex, if you ever come up here, enjoy.
Good to know.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for the call. Shout out Ground Round. But we'll have to tell it. Did we tell the full story about the Ground Round?
I think we said we were going to, and then we didn't.
Okay. Well,
whenever this was like a month ago.
If we have time at the end, we can tell the story.
All right, real quick, when Rodney Harrison came for his free agent visit, Bill took him to the Ground Round.
Yeah, I think Mr. Kraft was there too.
Now, like 20 years later, they're going to Moo in the Seaport.
It's
a little different. It's a little different.
The Ground Round in Needham, like where I grew up.
Okay, but hey.
Yeah.
Ground Round, undefeated. Rodney Harrison, great Patriot.
1 for 1.
Moo, I don't know.
Rodney Harrison, great Patriot Hall of Famer.
Patriot Hall of Famer, that's right.
Yeah.
Moo, we'll see what happens with Ezekiel Elliott, but not proven like the Ground Round is.
I mean, he hasn't signed yet. So,
exactly.
But to the Dalvin Cook question, I think the Patriots right now, and I think this is part of the workload management going on with Ramondre Stevenson too. I think they really want to give as many reps as possible to the second-year running backs. Those guys didn't play a whole lot last year, and I think they want to see what they have with them. That's the position nowadays. The position nowadays is not signing Dalvin Cook at 27 years old. It's drafting Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round and turning him into a player, right? That's what the league is gravitating towards. We know what the running back market is, and all you're drafting and replacing at that position every 3 to 4 years. That's the goal for every team at this point, unless you have a truly special back, which is rare nowadays. So I think they want to see what they have with Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong. If we get to cut down day around that time when that other roster movement happens, trades happen, holes present themselves. If we get to that time and those two guys are not really giving them what they need or showing them enough to trust them once the season rolls around, I think the Patriots will get more aggressive with whichever one of these free agent running backs they like, whether it's Cook, Zeke, Leonard Fournette, whoever's their guy. And of course, money is always a factor when I say their guy. They'll make that move, I believe. Let's call it September 1st. If we've gotten through the entire preseason and camp and the joint practices and all that, and Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong just aren't ready for the bright lights.
I agree with your theory. I don't think they wait that long. I think you're looking at after the Green Bay game. They'll have a week of joint practices, a preseason game, 2 weeks of fully padded practices here. You probably want to get that guy a little bit of lead time to learn the playbook. So I don't know that it's after cutdown day. I'm looking at like mid-August. But same thing. I think that there's an element of, look, they clearly recognize they need a back. They worked out another running back today.
Yeah.
Evan, if you can tell me which USFL team he played for here, I'll be very impressed.
No idea.
Birmingham's the two-time champion Birmingham Stallions. That was, I don't know if it's CJ Marable or CJ Marable, but fourth leading rusher in the USFL. He worked out here today.
I know, that was rude.
So like,
gonna be
Cool
talking.
story, Hansel.
yet another running back they've had for workout is my point. They clearly
Yeah.
recognize
Oh,
they
yeah.
need another running back, but I do think there is an element of, like you said, they want Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris out there and getting these reps both as a learning experience and as an evaluation experience. And then I think, again, you'll see them in joint practices, and that'll be big against the Packers. And then that's when, unless they're blown away by those two against Green Bay, they'll go back to the phones. And again, whether it's Cook, whether it's Elliott, whether it's Fournette, I think it's going to be Elliott.
Yeah.
If it is one of those guys, and they'll call that guy in and start getting that guy ready for the regular season.
Yeah, and then
Especially the other wild card here, too. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
The other wild card here, too, is what happens with Ty Montgomery. Because he is that fourth running back.
and he did make an appearance, not in pads or participating, but him and Cole Strange walked onto the field towards the end of practice today. They were in jerseys. So
I think Cole Strange even had his helmet.
I think it was signaling that they were off on the conditioning field doing some sort of rehab conditioning. So hopefully that's a good sign for Ty Montgomery. But we've gone over the Ty Montgomery thing. I think at this point, you can't count on having Ty Montgomery stay healthy as much as I think he's shown some flashes and really shown some fun things that you could do with him as a player. I just think it's unrealistic to count on him. To the City So question, I think this is a really good question because unfortunately, or whatever, where we are, they don't really have a whole lot of high upside talent at tackle in terms of young tackles. Obviously, Trent is high upside, but in his own way. They don't have a whole lot of young tackle talent. Now, So and Stuber are kind of their only two guys. And from what I've seen from both of them, they've had moments, but it is extremely inconsistent. Like I write down, pretty good rep for Andrew Stuber. Next time up, he gets blown up. Right, so it's like,
and that's being a young player. Like that's what comes with that.
And this is his first taste of NFL padded practice because he didn't practice at all.
Right.
Well, he did. I think he did towards the end last year, but it was behind closed doors.
I think no, he was never. I don't think he was ever out there.
He was never out there.
I don't believe so.
Okay, well we'll double check.
It's
that.
It's that. And Bill said it this week. He used that line. It's like an extra draft pick.
Yeah,
he did that with Cameron McGrone. A couple years ago.
That really worked out. So that's the main thing is just. If there's any, I've gotten over the receiver thing because our Lord and Savior Bill O'Brien is here and he's making it work with what they have. So I've gotten over DeAndre Hopkins. I cried about it enough. I'm done.
Still would have been cool.
Their handling of the tackling position is bugging me because it didn't have to be this way. You didn't have to make it so hard on yourselves.
Right.
You could have paid decent money to a tackle in free agency. I'm not talking about giving McGlinchey a top of the market deal. Just go out there.
Like Caleb McGarry got like $11 million a year. I think.
So
the
guy that they were reportedly in on was Andre Dillard. Remember this?
Oh yeah.
So they were reportedly in on Andre Dillard, who signed with the Titans, I think, for a 3-year, $27 million contract.
Very reasonable.
Very reasonable money. So looking back on it, and I understand this is not really the point right now, but
This is why I said before they have the team they have, we're moving on because I knew we were going to get bogged down.
Humor me for a second.
By the way, they're also in on McGarry 3 years, 34.5.
So Andre Dillard got 3 years, $27 million from the Titans, and Andre Dillard he's not Isaiah Wynn, but he did not pan out in Philadelphia as a first round.
No,
pick.
he ended up getting moved to guard at one point.
So he wasn't good, but I shouldn't say he wasn't good. He just didn't work out as a first round pick. but he's got a lot of skill, especially in pass protection, and he's got first-round athletic talent.
And he's their kind of player. He's a scheme fit.
Yeah. So all those things considered, you could have had your bet on a high upside guy, instead of it being Calvin Anderson at $2.5 million, you could have paid $9 or $10 million for Andre Dillard, and then you still could have gotten Riley Reif for whatever, or you still could have gotten Calvin Anderson for whatever, and you could have just had both. But instead, here we are, and you don't have a solid solution. Andre Dillard would have been a guy that, because of his contract, most importantly, I suppose, but just in general, he would have been penned in as the starting tackle. I don't know which side, because he's more of a left tackle. Maybe they ended up moving Trent back to right at that point, but regardless,
right,
he would have been in one of the tackle spots, penned in. I'm not gonna say Sharpied, but penned in. So
like one of those erasable pens.
But we wouldn't have been worrying as much about it.
Yeah, I think Dillard in his own right would have been an interesting player to follow because of the ups and downs in his career. But we'd be saying, all right, at that point, okay, Connor McDermott is a good plan B,
right?
And it's not,
or like Calvin Anderson. They still could have signed Calvin Anderson for $2.5 million guaranteed. So instead of paying $8 million guaranteed for tackle help, you would have paid 12. Like, was that really that difficult? No. And so here we are. And then the other thing is with the draft, which we've done over and over again. So I'm not going to go down the whole road with the draft of how they waited to the 4th round to draft a guard, to convert him to tackle, to now have us here with City So. So I'm not convinced that City So is going to be able to help them this year. I think that it's an interesting developmental talent.
He's a project player.
But I don't think he's going to help them this year. And I'm concerned about the tackles. That ends that rant. But would it have killed you? To give Andre Dillard to beat the Titans' offer to Andre Dillard?
Yeah, I mean, you know me. You're not wrong, but it's late, or no, it's not even late July. It's early August. They have the not to go to Bill, but the guys that are here are the guys that are here at this point.
Don't do that.
I know, but
don't let them off the hook like that,
but
Alex.
That's not supposed to be what this show is. Talking about the guys who, could have been here.
I know. Don't let him off the hook like that.
Although I do have a take on Taekwon Thornton in that.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a second. All right,
okay.
Mark from Connecticut, he wants to talk to me. Uh-oh. Do you have an axe to grind, Mark? What's up?
Evan, what's going on, brother?
Not much. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad. So I was at practice on Friday, Monday, and Tuesday.
Nice.
And on Monday, I was hoping to see you, but never saw you. But guess who came over and talked to me after I had a one-on-one with Demario Douglas?
Who is that?
Ben Volen.
Oh, no.
Ben Volen comes over to me and goes, "Do you know him?" And I said, "No, but I do now." I got to really chat with him for a little bit and got his autograph and everything, and I told him that he's the next Troy Brown / Julian Edelman / Dion Branch / Wes Welker. The kid has it. He's got the quickness. He's got the quick step. I mean, I watched him 3 days in practice, and he's killing it out there with the ones and the twos.
Yeah, that's absolutely a good point, and thanks for the call, Mark. Next time you're at camp, shoot me a DM on Twitter, and we'll meet up, and we'll make sure we get a hello in, and you don't have to talk to Ben Volen again.
Did you say hi to anybody in camp?
Not yet. Nobody's asked.
Ben, who listens to our show, he's called, not Ben Volen. Ben, who listens to our show, is called into our show. I met him today.
Oh, really?
He's very nice. Yeah.
Shout out Ben.
Yeah, shout out Ben. And when I did the thing with Sarge before camp, I think I did this last week.
Yeah.
I was shaking some hands walking back, and I think I shook somebody's hand too hard.
Flexing. Oh yeah, so many fans. Morale.
It's hilarious.
Anyways, so good segue to receivers. So thanks for that, Mark. Do you want to start with the good or the bad?
The bad's probably going to be quicker because I feel like it's mostly good, honestly.
It's been better. It's encouraging.
You know what? Let's start with the good because for me, the bad's really just one guy.
Demario Douglas might be a thing. He might be a thing.
So,
I'm not ready to go all Wes Welker, Dion Branch, guys that put up 1,000 yards and won Super Bowls. Besides Wes. Sorry,
right.
Wes. Sorry.
But he almost did.
But you know what I'm saying. I'm not ready to go there. Wes Welker has the most receiving yards ever in a single season by a Patriot. Let's pump the brakes. But he looks the part. He looks good.
I can't figure out a way to formulate this without doing a whole 10-minute thing, but we've worked together enough that you'll understand this.
Yeah.
And people who've watched us for a long time will understand when I ask you this. Is Demario Douglas a guy or is he a dude?
I think he's a guy for now. He might be a dude, but I need to see it.
Okay.
I want to see it in joints against some other teams who don't know the Patriots playbook like this defense does. I think the most exciting thing about Demario Douglas, and Mac mentioned it today, apparently he's a legend in Jacksonville, which I did not know. Probably should have done that for the story that I wrote about him after the draft. Probably should have made that
Something
connection.
tells me you'll get a chance to write about him a few more times.
Yeah, so here's the exciting thing about Demario Douglas. He is the only player on this team that can create his own separation. He's the only guy. He's the only guy that can run a route, stick his foot in the ground, and separate. And that is a breath of fresh air because we really haven't seen that too much. And it's encouraging. And I think the other thing that makes it exciting is we know how Bill O'Brien operates. We know how much he can emphasize quickness, especially inside the formation. And you can envision scenarios where Demario Douglas is your inside slot receiver, and he's coming off the line of scrimmage, and he's got a linebacker in front of him, and he puts a little juke on him, and all of a sudden here we're off and running. And that's really where I see his role in this offense, is in that number 2 and number 3 spot on the inside of the formation, running the juke routes, running the whip routes, running crossers, little things underneath the defense, things like that. And let's see what he can do with the ball in his hands, because we haven't seen true live tackling with him.
Well, we did today,
and guys were whiffing on him.
He owned it, and he owned it. So
he's an explosive player, absolutely.
I'm at the point where I have to. There's not many things I can say to myself at this point to not get my hopes up. Yeah. Early on it was, well, they're not in pads yet. Then there's just one padded practice, and like you said, the live tackling and this and that. But he just continues to check box after box after box. He has chemistry with Mac Jones, which is big. And I know you're not as high on Kayshon Boutte as maybe some other people covering camp, but he's had an okay couple days here. He's had a fine couple days here. But
with the Kayshon Boutte,
I think we can both agree on this.
Poppin' Boutte.
In theory, Kayshon Boutte's ceiling is higher, just based on what we saw at LSU.
I'm not so sure I believe that anymore.
All right, well, but I was going to say this. 2023, and we have to kind of mix the good and the bad right now for this take. Who has an easier path to playing time?
Pop.
Because they need a speed guy on this offense. Yeah. And the speed guy's not showing up. And if
that's true.
If literally he's been limited the last 2 days, Taekwon Thornton, if Demario Douglas can keep this up, outside of the draft pick, it's going to get really hard to justify not having Demario Douglas in the lineup over Taekwon Thornton, because
this is Jawan Williams, J.C. Jackson all over again.
A little bit.
Literally, this happens with this team all the time. And we don't cover...
N'Keal Harry, Jacoby Myers.
Right. Oh yeah, better example.
I'm trying to think of other ones now.
We don't cover other teams, so I don't know if this happens as often in other teams, but it just feels like it happens all the time here, where the 6th round pick ends up being the right pick and the 2nd round pick ends up being a bust. At the end of the day, I guess it doesn't necessarily matter, because you got the guys on the team, on the roster, and the good guy wins, right? In theory, this is a stupid thing to be. I'm not mad about it, because in theory, it would be a stupid thing to be mad about. But I think the biggest thing is with Douglas is you look at their other receivers, and Parker, Juju, Kendrick Bourne. I think Kendrick Bourne has a little bit more juice and speed than those other two, but we're talking about guys that are 6'1" plus. We're talking about longer striders, and we're not exactly talking about burners,
right?
Guys that have real speed. And when you start to think about it, and then you add the tight ends like Hunter Henry and Gesicki into that lineup as well, it's a lot of the same kind of guy. It's a lot of the same type of guy that wins in the same type of way, that wins in the same type of area of the field. Pop Douglas is a totally different thing from all those other guys. So if I'm building an 11 personnel package right now for the Patriots, 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 running back. If I'm building that 11 personnel package out, he brings a complementary skill set to the table,
right,
to Juju and Devontae Parker, who they're not going to take off the field.
Remember, we were talking about that battle between Thornton and Bourne for that Z role. And look, I think Bourne's had a good camp. I do. And he's going to play a role this year, but him with Juju and Parker, it's not a fast offense. You do need an element of speed in there. And I would say Kayshon Boutte's put himself, not Kayshon Boutte, I would say Demario Douglas has put himself in that conversation with Bourne and Thornton for that role.
I agree, and you also see what they're doing out there with him on like jet sweeps and end arounds and things like that too.
Well, all those things we said when they drafted him. Do you remember my big take when they drafted him? You can now run the Marcus Jones offense without having to take up too much of Marcus Jones' time. We are seeing those concepts
as
with a very similar guy.
As lazy as the comparison is, because it's right there for you. What a lot of fans that email us and call us and say, why don't we move Marcus Jones to offense full time? Pop Douglas is what you think you would be doing.
You drafted Marcus Jones again, basically, is what happened. Yeah. And it's funny, too, because when you're trying to come up with a comp for him, because that's what we do, it's training camp. I have a ridiculous player comp later on.
Oh, God.
And training camp is part of it. You're not going to guess what it is. It involves special teams. It's hard to come up with a comp for Demario Douglas. Like, were you the one I was doing this with the other day? Somebody we were like,
I think the closest Patriot comp is probably Deion Branch, but Deion Branch was bigger.
Like, you brought up Wes, but Wes Welker ran a 4.65.
I know, but he played faster than that.
But Wes Welker was not this fast. He was just as quick.
I think the best player comp, so I looked this up last night to be right about it. So Deion was 5'9", 192.
Deion was 5'9"?
That's what he was listed as. He measured it at the combine.
I could have sworn he was 6 foot.
69 inches. Nice.
I could have sworn he was 6 foot.
69 inches.
5'9", 192. Pop Douglas 5'8", 192.
That's he's like 5'7 3/4.
I don't. Was Deion that fast?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's the comp.
Deion was like mid-4.
Again, I think the comp. I know people like the comp's Marcus Jones. That to me is the comp.
Yeah, it's Marcus Jones. If Marcus Jones was was a good full-time receiver.
Well, I asked Demario Douglas about this back at the Shrine Bowl, and this is months before he was drafted by the Patriots. And maybe it's because the Patriots was coaching staff. I don't know if he knew I was from New England, whatever. But I said, like, are there any NFL players you model your game after? And he meant the two guys he mentioned Julian Edelman. He watched a lot of Julian Edelman. And the other guy he said was Marcus Jones. He says, since I was in high school, I watched Marcus Jones as a returner because, and I'm paraphrasing here, but the way that Marcus Jones carries the ball and the way I carry the ball are very similar. So this isn't us just kind of sitting here grasping at straws. Demario Douglas believes he's a comparable player to Marcus Jones.
It's kind of crazy that, so obviously the reason why Demario Douglas ended up at Liberty is because he's 5'7", right?
Yeah.
That's the obvious reason. But based off of what Mac told us today, Mac mentioned that he was like a 7-on-7 legend.
Yeah,
it wasn't
which makes sense.
Right. But he said that he was kind of a legend in Jacksonville where Mac Jones grew up. He's an NFL athlete. Like, he ran a low 4.4 in the 40-yard dash. He played well at the Shrine Bowl against other NFL players. He's played well in training camp against NFL players. It's funny how this happens sometimes, that these guys end up at Liberty, right? You would think that Alabama, LSU, Georgia, like somebody would have snagged him, right? Florida,
right.
He's down in Jacksonville. Where's Miami at? Like, why isn't he playing in Miami, right? Those types of things. And I think what you have to do, and what we try to do here on this show, is forget that he was a 6th-round pick, forget that he went to Liberty, and just look at what you're seeing. And the way that I look at it now, I think he has a legitimate chance, and I'm not going to put expectations in terms of production on Demario Douglas because I don't know yet. We're too soon for that.
Right.
But I think he has a legitimate chance to be a 3rd wide receiver in this offense this year behind Parker and Juju, which is crazy to think that I didn't think I would be saying that a couple months ago, but I think it's legitimate.
I think, I don't know, like, I think him and Bourne will still rotate.
Yeah.
Because
I think it'll be game plan. It'll be situational.
Right. Mac likes Bourne. I think Bill O'Brien really likes Kendrick Bourne. And I mean, Kendrick, catch of the day today. Back corner of the end zone, little toe tap for Mac Jones.
Like 6 hours later.
What do you mean?
It was late. It was kind of late.
What do you mean it was late?
It was like almost a sack. Oh, the corner route. I thought you were talking about the one from Bailey Zappi. My bad.
No, that was a sack. I mean, it's a nice catch, but that was a sack. No, the one from Mac Jones in the red zone, he put it over Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah.
I think Bourne's going to play too, but are they, and Gesicki's going to factor in here, they're going to run 12, but are they like 55, 45% guys, something like that? 45, 35?
Yeah.
But I'm not even going to
say. If you're playing a team with a slow secondary, I want to see Pop Douglas on the field. I got that for you.
I got a comp for you, and what you said just made me think of this.
Yeah.
You get a team that is a slow slot corner out there. Can he be Isaiah McKenzie? Against the Patriots, bad. Isaiah McKenzie, not against everybody else, Isaiah McKenzie.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
And it's like we've seen him against Miles Bryant. Yeah. He's given Miles Bryant trouble.
So Isaiah McKenzie is like a world-class sprinter. Speed.
Yeah.
But I think that it's not a terrible comp. Let's move on from Pop Douglas, though. What about Taekwon? Like, how worried are we? I don't even know if worried's the right word. It's just like at this point, he missed a lot of time last year with the collarbone injury.
Yeah.
He's missing more time this year. He missed some time in the spring with whatever the hamstring or whatever, the soft tissue, I think is how Reese reported it. I've seen this movie before. When you fall behind in this offense, then it's really hard to jump on the moving train. It really is difficult. And if we talk about how I was ready to wash away the rookie year for all the guys that were here last year because of the offense and the situation. But Taekwon struggled as a rookie, and now he's struggling to stay healthy or whatever you want to call it in his second season. I don't know. The air is out from, like, you know me. I was as jazzed up as anybody to see Taekwon in year 2, especially in a real offense.
I mean, you were ready after that first OTA practice to declare him the real deal.
So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. It's a crappy situation.
The term I used yesterday, and I wasn't even thinking when I used this, I was like mid-question, just came to mind, danger zone.
Yeah.
Like, he's I don't think he's lost his spot yet. If he comes back tomorrow and starts making plays, it's like, all right, he had a rough week. He's back. He's in good shape. We know he can have a good camp because he's having a very good camp last year until he got hurt.
Yeah.
But if he can't get on the field and he can't produce in the red zone when he's on the field, and the other thing was we thought Taekwon Thornton was going to have this long leash because, they need the speed.
Right.
They're kind of desperate. They need the speed. They're going to have to put him out there. Oh, hold on. Maybe not. Maybe not, because Demario Douglas showed up big time. And now we get back to, I think, Evan, we had a really interesting conversation about this probably like a month and a half ago. Mac likes throwing to Demario Douglas.
He does.
If Mac is going to be better with Demario Douglas, what are you putting Taekwon Thornton on the field for?
So I do think that to an extent they are different in some respects because Taekwon, I mean, people that get excited about him like me call him Tariq, right? Like, Taekwon's tall. Taekwon's 6'1", 6'2". He is a burner. He's an over the top, what I say, take the top off the defense. That's what I'm looking for. Vertical route runner. Whereas I think Demario Douglas is going to live on the quick hitters underneath and then like occasional crossing routes at different levels of the defense. I don't think that Demario Douglas is lining up on the outside and running a go route, I guess is my point. So I think in some respects they're a little bit different in how they win. And it would be nice if Taekwon was actually good to have two guys that can actually run out there for once. But at the same time, he didn't do anything when he was out there. Then he gets hurt. I was almost more worried about this when he was practicing because they were out there in shorts and a t-shirt and he was doing nothing.
Right.
And if a 4.28 guy is in shorts and a t-shirt and he can't separate, that's concerning. Like that's where those types of guys should pop off, especially in year 2 when you're comfortable in the NFL. And he said all these things at the podium last week. I think it was earlier this week that the game was slowing down for him. And I no disrespect to Taekwon, but I was thinking, like, is it? Like, it doesn't look like it is. It looks like you're still struggling out there. So it's concerning with Taekwon because the investment, you know that they drafted him in the second round. We've seen this movie before with the Patriots with second round picks. We've seen this movie before with high picks at that position. And we are not going to do the second guess on this show. We're not going to do the George Pickens, Alec Pierce.
So,
Sky
okay,
Moore
but can
thing.
I give a take?
We're not doing it.
Can I, and this might be a hot take, and I know we don't really do hot takes on the show, and maybe this gets me called a homer, but I stand by it. Going back, I'm okay that they didn't take George Pickens. I'm very okay with that. This is a guy that...
Go ahead. Sorry.
This is a guy that had 2 significant knee injuries.
Yeah.
Had some character concerns.
Yeah.
For a team that has swung and missed at wide receiver as much as they have, a guy that has that much variance, is that much high risk, even if he was high reward, the Steelers churn out wide receivers. That's what they do. George Pickens was always going to be a success there. Here, I don't know. Now, could they have made better picks than Thornton? Yes. The second guess I make is, could you have gone Christian Watson in the first round and then gotten a guard later on? Or could you have, they
Right.
moved up to 50 to get Thornton.
That's a fair
Could they
point.
have moved up a little higher to get John
I-
Mechie? And I know
I loved Christian Watson, too.
I know you did.
Yeah.
And I know, like, Mechie, now we later found out he had cancer. You can only go with the information you had at the time. Right. So
I would throw Sky Moore into
Sky
this.
Moore's but
I know he didn't have a big first year in Kansas City, but he's a speed receiver that I think is a better route runner than Taekwon.
yeah, he's a little more of a slot guy, and I think they wanted a boundary guy. So
Yeah.
that one, again, I understand. But, like, I don't hold it against them that they didn't pick Pickens. I understand
Neither
why
do
they
I.
didn't do it. It burned them. It was the wrong. It didn't work out. But I don't
Nobody
know.
wants to put any context into the George Pickens
They
thing.
made the right decision at the time in not taking Pickens. They could have picked somebody better,
Yeah.
maybe, but that's not. If you want to second guess the Patriots on the draft, you have plenty of opportunities to do so over the last few years. I don't think that's one that you need to go to do it.
I would also say with George Pickens, like, show me a highlight of George Pickens at Steelers camp that's not a crazy contested catch.
Also, have you noticed
Like-
it's all been against Joey Porter Jr.?
No, I didn't notice that, but
It's like all been against
sit
Joey Porter
here-
Jr.
We sit here and talk about how useless Devontae Parker is because all he does is win jump balls, and then George Pickens wins a bunch of jump balls and one-on-ones at Steelers camp, and everybody's like, "Well, he should have drafted that guy."
Right.
It's like he's just Devontae Parker but younger. Like, can we just relax? This is a whole separate thing, but like wide receiver DB one-on-ones, I have no time for. Like, if you're an NFL wide receiver and you're a legitimate pro receiver, you should win a one-on-one against a DB like 85% of the time.
You have no need for any of that. How about
How
the tight ends and the safeties?
Nope.
How about Christian Gonzalez against Devontae Parker?
Nope.
I think those are interesting because
They're
have the
interesting
rookie
because you can
at a disadvantage, and you see how he does at a disadvantage.
So I think they're interesting for two reasons. One, you see the alphas come out, right?
Yeah.
You see the demeanor and the competitiveness. And the second thing I would say is that you see how guys move without having to be clogged up by the other 21 guys on the field, right? So it's a snapshot of just this player and just that player, and that helps people like us that are trying to watch practice. It helps us be able to isolate guys and just and not have to worry about missing everything else. I think O-line, D-line, one-on-ones are really, really good things to watch.
See, this is why we were a good team when we worked together.
I know.
Because you would watch that, and I would watch this.
The
Now Matt Dolph watches the offensive line for me.
The O-line, D-line,
And does a good job
one-on-ones
of it.
are really translatable. Like, that's football. You can see a lot about how guys move their feet, how they reposition their hands, refit their hands, how they change directions. Like, you can see a ton of things about O-line, how they handle power, right? Like that, all that type of stuff in O-line, D-line, one-on-ones. Running back or wide receiver, cornerback one-on-ones to me is like it's Madden. It's like video game stuff. Like,
They actually put it in Madden this year. It's going to be in the new Madden.
Like-
You're going to be able to do one-on-ones.
because corners have help, right? Like, so it's unrealistic. I'm sorry, we don't need to go through this, but like, when like tell
no,
me.
but now I got to get you on Madden so we can run one-on-ones
tell me when a
against each
corner
other.
isn't going to have safety help to play off of.
Well, if
In this system, never.
if they're doing the 10-on-10 thing, hey, you're Steph Gilmore, Ty Law, Darrell Reeves.
Okay, but that's one guy.
But don't we want? Well, but that's what. So I'm not saying every rep holds weight, but I said Christian Gonzalez against Devontae Parker. If
little
he's winning those, that's notable.
Okay, but the other thing is like, and we're getting really bogged down here by this, but the other thing is, yesterday they were done on the O-line, D-line, so I looked
Yeah.
over to the wide
That
receiver.
last one between Gonzalez and Parker.
How many moves is Parker going to throw on him before it's over?
Okay, but I'm not.
If I was the coach, I would have blown the whistle and been like, Devontae, you gotta make a move, dude.
Okay,
like, you don't have 8 seconds to throw the ball, and then everybody puts it down as a win for Devontae Parker. Like, that's not a win.
Well, okay, but that's on them for interpreting that wrong.
He
I
wore it
can't.
like a glove.
I can't
Like,
come in and look at that and say Christian Gonzalez, even though Parker eventually got the catch after 5 moves, had a very impressive rep against Devontae Parker.
Yeah,
I
sure.
can't come in and say, all right, so that's something.
But you know, some people don't do that.
But that's why people listen to this show,
That's true. All
because
right.
they want that.
Let's go through these calls.
right.
Call screens lighting up today,
Love it.
Alex. I love that. Patty's in Agawam. Patty, we read your email, so don't ask the same question.
That's what I was going to ask you guys.
That's okay. Do you have another question?
Yeah, you know what? I'll throw this one out at you guys. So let's just say Demario does this thing throughout camp and through the preseason, and Keyshawn Boutte, or Booty, or however the hell
Booty.
you say
Booty.
it, he continues to build up on the momentum that he he displayed yesterday, and I don't know what he did today, but can you envision them keeping both these guys on the final 53?
Yeah, I can, and thanks for the call, Patty, and thanks for the email. As always, I wanted to talk about Booty. I almost forgot, so I'm glad we got this in here. I could see a world where they keep both because I don't know what the heck is going on with Taekwon Thornton. So maybe it's a situation where Taekwon is IR'd, the whole post roster cut down, like all that minutia. We don't have to get bogged down by that, but I think that there's a world where they keep both. They're not going to keep 6 guys, but I think that there's a world where they keep both.
They might have to initially because I don't know that you're getting either of those guys through waivers.
Yeah.
So unless you're saying they're going to put Taekwon on IR before the 53,
right,
just write the year off.
So I guess that's true.
At that point, you're done.
They could cut somebody like one of the freaking special teams guys,
right,
and then cut him initially. Tell him to stick around. They put Taekwon on IR after the fact. And we don't know how serious Taekwon's injury is, so I should say that. I'm not saying that Taekwon's definitely going to IR or anything like that. But that's a possibility that they could carry 6 initially and then make room for it to be 5 eventually,
right,
post cut down. With Booty, I don't want to rag on him. I think he's had a couple good practices. I think it's a fun name that gets impressions and gets clicks for us when we talk about Booty and Douglas. Like when you write about those two guys, it goes off. That's the job. I get it. But I don't think that I've seen anything from Booty that's been super impressive. He's an explosive linear athlete. Like he runs a pretty good go ball, right? Like he runs well up the field. I've seen that. I think he's stiff. I don't think that he's got a whole lot of wiggle. I think he's a little bit robotic or stiff in the hips, and that's something that I've noticed, but I just haven't been as impressed with him as Douglas, but Douglas has been doing it longer than he has. It's only been a couple practices.
Booty had a slow start. That doesn't help. I think you're underselling. He's made some impressive plays on the ball. Like I think his body control is really good.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, some of the reason I say impressive plays on the ball and not catches is there's been times where he's done a great job to get himself in position to make a catch, and then didn't make the catch.
Well, so that was a knock on him in college. Was
it's
catches
definitely
and
something he needs to work on. But I think the last couple of days, I don't think he has a drop the last 3 or 4 days.
No.
So it's getting better.
His body control and ability to adjust to the ball is better than I thought.
As crazy as this sounds, and this is kind of the way camp goes, if Demario Douglas was just in the background, I think we would be really excited about Kayshon Boutte right now. But the other rookie got going quicker and is fast and gives them a skill set they need. Fast. Whereas if Kayshon Boutte, turns out to be what we think he would be at his best as a rookie, so then they have Kendrick Bourne again, which isn't bad, but
he's a little Kendrick Bourne-y, I suppose.
I don't know what does Boutte give them that they don't already have.
Especially when I look at his body type, not talking about him as a player necessarily, but like him and Juju look a lot alike. Like they're both thicker.
So I think he's
6'1".
somewhere, I guess I should say, between like Kendrick Bourne. I think he's more explosive than Juju, but he's not quite as explosive as Bourne.
I think he's kind of like ideally he would be like younger Juju, right? Like Juju before all the
knee injuries.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, he started later than Boutte.
Yeah.
Or started later than Douglas. And 2, he doesn't add something they don't already have. That doesn't mean that there's not value in keeping him. There certainly is. But it's just Kayshon Boutte, it's like I don't know why I keep doing that. Demario Douglas, first of 3 podcasts, is going to be an adventure. Demario Douglas, it's like I can see immediately, like we talked about before.
Yeah.
This guy's going to play. He's going to play this role. This is what they need him to do. Boom. It's like, all right, he's done this role in Bill O'Brien's offense. Whereas Kayshon Boutte, even if he's good, okay, then what? Right. So, all right, they have another good receiver, but he's still probably going to be a backup.
I will reiterate again, Devontae Parker and Juju are not coming off the field.
Right. With Juju, you have to worry about injuries. And Parker, too, I guess.
Exactly. Like, Kayshon Boutte at best is depth in case one of those guys get hurt.
To go back to the question, and maybe this ties into that, can they keep all 6? Kayshon Boutte is not your typical 6th-round pick. No. This is a guy that was an elite prospect coming out of high school. Less than a year ago was projected to be the number 1 receiver in the draft, a draft that included Jackson Smith and Njigba and Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
And then had a bad year at LSU and for some reason decided to run the combine with a broken ankle, which I don't understand why he did that, but all the power to him for doing it.
Ask his agent.
So, if he starts showing flashes, he's not getting a practice squad. Somebody's going to be like, all right, nope, they unlocked it. They found it. They found the guy he was supposed to be after his freshman year at LSU. Like, you're not getting him to the practice squad. So
I can see it.
At that point, it's either do you essentially let him go or do you have to keep 6?
Yeah.
And I think that they may look at it and say, Parker and Juju are injury prone. Kendrick Bourne's in the last year of his deal. We don't know what Taekwon's going to be.
Yeah.
We need this long-term potential at wide receiver. We can't let him go.
If I had to do a 53-man roster projection,
It's so hard
now.
I
didn't really think about it necessarily because I'm not planning on doing one until after the first preseason game. But
I'm doing one Saturday.
I guess I could kind of see it now that Patty laid it out, or it was Patty, right? Laid it out. I think that there is a world where they carry 6 initially, and then they're able to figure out the numbers post cut down, whether it's IRing somebody, bringing back a special teams guy, Raleigh Webb or whatever, who has actually made some plays.
Okay, can I give you my Raleigh Webb take?
It's kind of weird, right?
Hang on. Raleigh Webb gets open.
Yeah, Raleigh Webb can play a little
Raleigh
bit.
Webb gets open a lot. Now, it's against the third-team defense.
It's so
but
weird.
There are other guys who are not getting open against the third-team defense.
He ran a little stutter and go in one-on-ones and blew by somebody.
He gets open. He's made contested catches.
Yeah.
He's shown some good body control. Now,
it's so bizarre.
He's a converted college safety.
And he's doing it all wearing number 44.
Shout out Mark Edwards.
Which makes it even more
I'm
weird.
not going to sit here and say Raleigh Webb is going to solve all their problems at wide receiver, but
you're not saying that either.
As an emergence, if they get really banged up, we just talked about how a lot of these guys, Taekwon, Parker, Juju, have injury issues.
He's not playing wide receiver.
As an emergency wide receiver,
break glass.
I'm saying
oh my goodness.
as your 7th, 8th wide receiver, you could do worse than Raleigh Webb.
Okay.
Fine. He gets open.
It's not worth arguing.
Raleigh Webb gets open. Does he not get open, Evan? He gets open.
Joey in Texas. What's going on, Joey? Joey going
Just
once.
shocked by that take.
Joey,
I want you to say Raleigh Webb gets
Joey,
open.
call back and we'll get you on the air. No.
You said it before I went on that rant. You just hate it because I said it.
It just was ridiculous. All right, Russell's in Boston. What's up, Russell?
Hey, how's it going, Alex and Evan?
It's going well. Thanks for calling.
I'm a huge fan of the podcast. I have one quick question for you guys.
Yep.
There's a few free agents out there. I know that Ezekiel Elliott's one of them. Could you see the Patriots signing these last moments during training camp leading up to the preseason and eventually the first game of the season?
Yeah, it's a good question. They do have an open roster spot right now, theoretically, and thanks for the call, Russell. So I think we're both on the same page with the running backs. I think we both lean Zeke. It just feels like the best combination of they're not going to pay Dalvin Cook, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to pay his quote.
Can I tell you my theory on Dalvin Cook? My tinfoil hat theory on Dalvin Cook? He already signed with the Jets. They're just waiting to announce it on the season premiere of Hard Knocks.
Oh my God! If that's what it is, then they're not going anywhere.
Very stupid.
If that's what it is, they are not going anywhere.
He called them a super team, so I now get to compare them to the 2011 Eagles.
Okay, but if that's what happens, they're not. I am selling all my stock in the Jets. It's because I kind of believe in the Jets. I do.
I do a little bit too, but it's oddly quiet after he pretty much said he was going to be a Jet.
Yeah. So I lean towards Zeke because I think I tweeted this and everybody attacked me. What about Dalvin Cook? It's about the value for me. I'm not saying that Zeke is a better player than Dalvin Cook. Nobody is saying that Zeke is a better player than Dalvin Cook. But they're not going to pay Dalvin Cook $8 million a year when they have Ramondre Stevenson on the team. It's a waste of money. It doesn't make any sense. So they're going to pay Zeke half that, a quarter of that maybe even, to come in here and be a veteran backup to Ramondre, which is what they really need. I feel like these running backs are out there because the market is devalued the position, and people have lost their minds and forgotten that Ramondre Stevenson is still a damn good back on the Patriots. He's better than Dalvin Cook at this stage, potentially. So
if they're close, it's negligible.
Yeah.
Or if Cook's better, it's negligible.
Right. So why, whatever. I know it's just money, but it just doesn't – that's not how they're going to operate.
I did a poll when Cook first got whatever it was, a month and a half ago, and I did – running back A, Ramondre's numbers. Running back B, Cook's numbers from last year, included the age. 90-something% of people took Ramondre.
Yeah. So I feel the same way about that. I think Zeke makes the most sense for role, contract, what they need that guy ideally to do. I think it's going to piss off a lot of fantasy football owners because he might be the goal line back and steal all of Ramondre's touchdowns.
Well, no, we've been getting asked for months, who should I handcuff with Ramondre Stevenson? Who should I handcuff, right?
You should draft Zeke
It
Elliott.
would be a very easy one. Somebody in my buddy's league, he always sends me the draft. I don't care, but he sends me the draft. Somebody actually drafted Zeke in like the 10th round.
Oh, there you go. Any interest in Jonah Williams?
Jonah?
Yeah, Jonah Williams. Bengals.
Oh,
Tackle.
I don't.
You're the Alabama guy here.
I know. Well, because they worked out. Remember they worked out Damian Williams,
Oh yeah,
the running back.
No,
So like
Darrell Henderson. You mean?
Darrell Henderson. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I was thinking of Damian Williams.
It's like a day 8 at camp. Everybody.
In theory, yes. I actually don't think the Bengals are going to trade him.
He's apparently taking second team reps.
I know he is, but the Bengals don't need picks. The Bengals are trying. Joe Burrow's on his rookie deal. The Bengals need to win a Super Bowl right now, and having an extra starting tackle, like if you lose one of your tackles, you're still in great shape. If I'm the Bengals and I'm trading him for a player. I'm trading him for a player that's going to help me win immediately.
Okay.
And the Patriots can't exactly afford to part ways with those. So I
guess, yeah.
I
don't know. I mean, I don't have a great example off the top of
if
my
I'm
head.
the Bengals, I'm called like in the Patriots call. I'm asking about Josh Uche. I'm asking about Kyle Duggar. I'm asking about the guys in last year, their contracts. Right, but if I'm the Bengals, I want. What does a pick do for me? I want a player.
Yeah. I don't know. There might be a spot the Patriots have a player that could help the Bengals. Like, I wanted to segue to defense. What if Keon White can play and Lawrence Guy's expendable?
If you can get Jonah Williams for Lawrence Guy, yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Right.
Either. I don't know. I would like Jonah Williams. I would like that trade. Really quickly, just who's your standout on defense? We talked all offense, but we got to wrap.
Christian Gonzalez has been really good. All the rookies, I think, have been really good.
Yeah.
I'll give you kind of a sleeper one, honestly. Oh, you know what? Actually, Mac Wilson's been great, and I know I had him off my initial roster projection. He's been excellent. The guy to me that like is getting really interesting to watch, and we saw him today, was his biggest day, is Isaiah Bolden, the 7th round pick, the corner out of Jackson State.
Chart, it seems.
And Jack Jones obviously had a weird day today, left practice for a significant time, and we know that like Jack Jones' availability is a real question, and so people are going to roll their eyes when I say, well, the fourth boundary corner battle. Fourth boundary corner? What are you talking about?
We've done this before. I know. The snaps and the Jason McCourty.
They want to rotate, right?
Yeah.
So who's going to be the guy behind Christian Gonzalez and Jonathan Jones? Right now, it looks like it's Isaiah Bolden. He got to go against Devontae Parker in 11s and had a really good pass breakup against him. Not just like got in the way of an errant throw, but Parker had the ball in his hands and he punched it out. So Isaiah Bolden,
he's got good ball skills.
Really good ball skills. And he's 6'3".
Yeah.
So he brings some more size to that position, which they need. He's an elite athlete.
So that Isaiah Bolden he's like Jawan Williams, right? Like when they drafted the guy in the 7th round that actually is the Jawan Williams that they wanted.
Well, so he would be J.C. Jackson in this.
Yeah.
Well, but I don't know that Christian Gonzalez is bad.
No, he's not bad. That's true.
But it's they found a guy late. I think they might have found a guy in Isaiah Bolden. I've been really impressed with him. I mean that when we get into joint practice, that's going to be big for him. But great start.
Okay, Kyle Duggar.
Yeah,
we're at the point. I said this on PU. Call his agent, put a contract on the table, and let's get this thing done. Because this is exactly. I know I've seen this before. This is exactly what's going to happen. They're going to end up having to franchise tag him if they don't pay him first. Because
he's going to reset the market.
He's going to get a massive contract if he hits unrestricted free agency next year. A massive contract. And you have two choices. Either get out in front of it and you extend him now, and maybe you get him at a little bit more of a team-friendly price because you're giving him the money up front, or you roll the dice and you tag him in the offseason. Like that, those are really your only options with him.
Yeah.
Because he's too good to let him just walk for nothing. I want to hear about the comp picks, and he's going to be way too expensive, and they probably won't end up paying him, and all they'll have to show for it is the 110th pick in the draft, which, like, please, they need good players. They don't need 110th pick in the draft.
And to the people who say, well, they drafted Marte Mapu maybe to replace him.
Why not play them together?
Right. Well, it becomes the mystery box in the boat. And then what happens when you have to pay Marte Mapu? Are you just going to keep every
At some point,
year?
you gotta invest in some
You
got
to start building a core,
Okay, really, really quickly. Just one thing that people need to know about the specialists. Go.
So I remember I said I have that weird player comp for you.
Yeah.
Bryce Baringer.
Yeah.
Tim Wakefield.
What?
The way the ball comes off his foot.
What?
The way the ball comes off his foot is very hard for the returners to get a read on. And I asked him about it yesterday, and he said he can't control it. He can control it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I've never, it's, Jake Bailey was really good at this initially.
Is it wrapped up? Is Ryland and Behringer, to me, I think it feels like we're getting towards wrapped up territory.
We're really close. The in-stadium's the big special teams one.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we're really close to having 2 rookies.
Ryland has a leg.
I think he has 2 legs.
Well, thank you. Ryland has some more distance on his kicks than I thought.
I was so mad out with that one. I could hear him through the glass.
God, it's day 8. Ryland has more of a leg than I thought. He's got a good leg. I think he's gonna be able to make from plus 50. I do.
Yeah, he'll flirt with that.
And Behringer is he's got a boomer too.
The big thing, he's got a big leg, but the big thing is the returners are having trouble fielding the ball, and that creates muff punts, and guys are maybe more inclined to fair catch it, and that's big. That's field position, and muff punts is potentially turnovers.
If there's one part of the podcast that Bill likes, it was that 30 seconds of Alex talking about how the knuckleball off Bryce Behringer's foot.
No, he'd hate that. I'm giving away the
spin,
secrets.
And then it's tough to catch, and this is relevant.
Really quick before we wrap up, there's a question here in the chat on YouTube that somebody wants me to ask you. Can you answer it real quick?
Yeah.
Does Raleigh Webb get open?
On that note,
I'm not even lying. It's in the chat. Answer the question. It's in the chat. I'm not lying. It's in here.
The Revs are playing tonight.
Answer the question. Answer the question.
Against the third team defense, yes.
Yeah. All right. That's all I wanted.
On that note, we're going to do the pod next Wednesday. Before the preseason game. So we'll talk about the camp practices Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then we'll preview the game on Thursday to kind of give you guys an idea of who you should be looking for and things like that.
Yep.
And so we'll be at this time on Wednesday. So don't look for us on Thursday like our usual time. We'll be on Wednesday because of the preseason game. And we're almost there. Preseason football starts tonight. Hall of Fame game. Patriots open preseason.
You realize we're going to have a Hall of Fame game soon?
Are we?
I'd imagine when Brady gets in, it's going to be the Patriots.
That'd be fun.
I'll
be able to go to that. That'd be cool. All right. Anyways, signing off, Alex Barth, Matt behind the glass, and Evan Lazar here for you. We'll be see you next Wednesday. I almost said Thursday. Wednesday.
Bye.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.